Okay, so here we go. We're going to compare the sounds of the shutter on these three Canon cameras, and you'll be able to see how differently they sound from one another. I'm going to start off with the Canon EOS 1DS. Now this is not the modern DX or DX2. This is the old Canon EOS 1DS, and this camera is from 2003, I believe, and it still takes wonderful pictures. I use it quite a bit. I've used it for a long time. So without further ado, let's see what the shutter speed sounds like. And I've set them all to 1/500th of a second, so there won't be that variable between them. I'm going to move it a little closer so you can be sure to hear it pretty good. Now I think that's the best one. This is interesting. This is the little Canon T2i. It still takes great video, and the shutter doesn't sound too bad on it for a small plasticky camera. That's kind of normal. A lot of cameras sound about like that. The weirdest shutter speed though is the Canon 6D. It's quieter, but for lack of a better term, just mushier. And that's the 6D Mark I, not the 6D Mark II. I'm going to hold it at a little different angle so perhaps you can get the sound better. I think that one has the least appealing sound. Now I'm going to get some film cameras over here and give you an idea what a couple of them sound like. I want to start out with the film camera that I have used quite a bit. This is the Nikon FM, an all-mechanical camera that was introduced in 1977. I still use this camera regularly, shoot a lot of film on it. It's been crazy reliable. So let's see what the shutter sounds like on it. And you can see it's on 1/500th of a second, just like all the others were. And that's the way I remember shutters sounding from the days when most of us had, mechanical cameras. That's how our stuff sounded. Now, another camera that a lot of you might have used over the years, here we go, on 1/500th. Now this is the Pentax K1000, another all-mechanical camera. It's much like the Nikon FM in that it will let you use any of the shutter speeds, even if the battery's dead. All the battery does is work the meter. The camera still functions without a battery. You just have to meter by eyeball or by light meter or some Sunny 16 rule or other method. But all the shutter speeds are available. Many of the electric cameras from the 70s and 80s, if the battery died, you had one speed left that you could shoot at, only one shutter speed that would work mechanically. This, like the Nikon FM, works at all of them. Here we go. Let's get him. That sounds again like the mechanical shutters that I remember from cameras back in the day. So there's no surprise there. Got another little camera to show you. This next little camera, I gotta get him on manual mode. This little camera come out in about 1982. This is a Nikon FG. And in '82, this camera was a fairly inexpensive camera for a Nikon, but it had program mode. You could shoot in aperture priority or in program mode using the AI lenses. And I've got it set to manual mode and at 1/500th of a second. And this is an example of one of the cameras that if the battery died, you only had one shutter speed you could use, and I think it's 1/25th. I'd have to look that up because I won't use it that way. I'd just put a battery in it. I keep some spares. But we're gonna put him on, let you hear the shutter speed. Interesting. Sounds a little different. But then again, this is an electronic camera, so the shutter in it is a little different than in those mechanical cameras. Let's see if we can dig out one more here. We'll go really old school. This one doesn't have a lens on it, but the shutter will still fire. This is an all mechanical Nichromat FT2, and this camera again will fire any shutter speed without a battery. It just uses the battery to meter. And oddly enough, on these cameras, you can see where the shutter speed ring is. It's right here below where you mount the lens. It's on a ring down here. You got your ASA, and over here you got your shutter speed. And so I've got to get it in the light right and see it. Here we go. Now then we got it set to 500ths. And you can tell that sounds a whole lot like the Nikon FM. It's because it's all mechanical. It's not fired electrically. There's no electronics in there controlling the shutter. It's just springs and gears and levers. This information is strictly just for entertainment. I've had people ask about why does your camera shutter sound different than mine, and I don't know. I'll ask them what kind of camera they got, and we'll look at it, maybe compare them, you know, when I'm out and about. And sure enough, a lot of cameras sound very different. I don't know that any one shutter speed's better than the others. I sure love the sound of the old Nikon mechanicals, but in the digital world, this is the one I love, the Canon 1DS. I love the way this shutter sounds. And that's usually the camera that gets people to ask, what kind of camera is that and why does your shutter sound different? Because it's kind of distinctive, I think. Well, let me know what you think. I mean, does your camera sound different, or does yours sort of have that electronic sound to it, or more of a clunk, or have you used some old cameras that have had a strange shutter speed sound? I'm kind of fascinated by that. Strictly for entertainment, I'm not saying any one camera is better than the other. The best camera is the one you use for what you're trying to do that works for you. That's the best one. You know, if you're out and about and a $10 disposable camera is what's with you, and you're on a canoeing trip and you don't want to ruin your good camera or lose it in the river, then the best camera that day is that little disposable camera or that little GoPro, something like that. But if you're, doing something else, a different camera might be better. But I hope you find these camera sounds entertaining. And as always, thank you for watching, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.